Hi everybody, thanks for clicking on my channel. In a previous video on planting full sun containers, I promised that I would show you how I make my own self-watering containers. In today's video, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do a simple version and we're going to do a more advanced version. Let's start with the simple version. You want to start with a plastic pot with no hole in the bottom. Any pot size will work. But we've got this plastic pot and there's no hole. Quite simply, all we need to do is get another pot that fits snugly right down in there. And now we have a place down here where it can maintain water reservoir. We have this, which will be all full of our planting medium. The only thing we need to do now is make sure that there's a way for excess water to exit the pot. So what you do is you figure out where this pot sits. So it's about this deep. You want to go up about 1.5 inches from the bottom of the pot that's going to have your soil in it. So figure that's going to be, that's the bottom of the pot. Go up about 1.5 inches right there. And you're going to drill a hole in your pot. That's going to allow excess water to exit the pot, but it's still going to maintain that the soil up to about this point will have water in it that's available for the plant to suck up water. And it won't let it drown because you have the weep hole to let that out. So this is the simplest version on putting together a plastic pot that turns into a self-watering pot. Version number 2, again another homemade one that you can do simple around the house. Plastic pot without a hole in it. We're going to use the lid to a 5-gallon bucket. And you can see that I've drilled holes in this. This is going to allow the roots of the plant to get down into the water. We're going to set this down inside. And it fits nice and snugly. We're going to be able to fill our pot up to about 1 inch here. That's going to maintain our soil. The roots are going to be able to grow down in to get any water that they need from the reservoir. And then we have our weep hole here on the side that will prevent excessive water from building up and possibly rotting out the roots of your plants. Now, some of you may be saying, well, why don't I just fill the whole pot up with soil? That's not a good idea. What happens is some plants don't like to have their roots in that wet, soggy, muddy gook. So by putting this lining in, it helps to make a barrier between the water and the soil. So if there are roots that want to go down into the water, they can go down through the weep holes. If there are roots that just want to stay within that inch above the top where the water is, then they can do that. But the plants won't drown by using this method. So again, this is really simple, just a 5-gallon bucket lid that fits down inside our pot. Method number 2, super easy. All you need really is a drill. This is the more advanced version. That's because this is a 23-inch pot. It's 23 inches across. And there's really no way I could find another pot that would fit down in there. So I'm going to make my own barrier like we just did with the other one using the lid to the 5-gallon bucket, but we're going to use some plastic. So the first thing we want to do is figure out how big of a circle we need to cut inside this pot. So come on over here and we're going to look. We're going to go down about 10 inches. So we're going to maintain about 9 inches of soil in this pot. So from here to about here, we're looking at about 19 inches, which means I'm going to be making a circle that is 19 inches across. So let's put this down, and we're going to move over to our plastic. For my project, we use corrugated plastic, and you can see it has little holes in here. This is really thick and sturdy. It's actually part of a greenhouse wall. But you can use anything that you can find that's sturdy. You might want to go on Facebook and just do a search for it, or even plexiglass. The main thing is, how are you going to cut this material? And that's where some other tools come in line. So you are going to need probably a razor blade knife, obviously safety glasses, a tape measure. I use a marker, a string, and a nail to make our circle. I have a drill with a good sized drill bit in there. It's maybe about a 1/2 inch. I have a jigsaw, and I have a piece of pipe that is probably about 4 inches across. You'll understand this as we get further into it. But that's what we're going to start with. Again, whatever kind of plastic or whatever you can find around your house that you can use, you just have to be a little creative with this part. Got our plastic down here. We have a nail, a string, and a marker. This is set at 9.5 inches because we said that our circle needed to be 19 inches. That's right, yeah. So we're going to just push the nail down. So that's our center mark. Take your lid off and just do your best to draw your circle. The really good thing about this is that this is not fine carpentry that needs to be exact. All that. And we should have a 19-inch circle right there. All right, we're going to cut our plastic next, and I found it really easy to use a stool for this part of the project. Have our stool, going to put our plastic on top of that, make sure that we have plenty of room all the way underneath for our jigsaw blade to cut around. Put on our safety glasses because safety first. Then you're going to grab your jigsaw and you're going to go around the outside edge here. Now, this does not have to be exact. It's okay if it's off a little bit because we do want water to go through this. So, like I said, just do the best you can. And see, I messed up. I started going on the wrong line, but that's okay. We're going to make it work. All right, let's see how well that fits down in there. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller because I think it's a little bit too shallow for the soil. So I'm just going to cut off this little bit of extra there. Better to cut it a little bigger the first time. That way if it doesn't fit, you can always make it a little bit smaller. Let's see how this works. That's much better. Nice. So that's a nice sturdy base that's going to help keep the soil and the water separated. We're going to insert a 4-inch tube down through this. This is going to act as a wick. It's not always necessary, but I have found that some plants will actually send roots down in here, so the plants that really like more water will find their way down through this wick, whereas the plants that only want a little bit of water will stay up above the plastic. So we're going to put this in the center. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and we're just going to draw a circle, just like that. All right. Now we need to cut this circle out, and to do that, you turn your stool upside down. Put your plastic there. Safety glasses again. This time you're going to grab your drill with the biggest bit, and we're going to drill a couple spots in here. Then we're going to come back with our jigsaw and just cut this out. And that's going to fit right in like that. The final part we have to do with this part of the plastic is we're going to drill some holes for those roots to be able to go down and get some water. So you're just... There's no right number of holes, just whatever you think the plants will like. I think that's pretty good. Oops. Turn this. There's our container. Here's our plastic piece. It's going to fit down in like that. Now, we need to take our tape measure again, and we need to measure how deep we need to make this. So we need to cut a piece of pipe, perforated pipe, this 4-inch pipe, to about 10 inches. And that's going to fit down right inside like that. So that's the next thing we're going to do, is cut that pipe. All right, we are using perforated drainage pipe, and we said we needed to come down 10 inches, so we're going to mark 10 inches right there. I have my chop saw. I'm wearing my safety glasses. Where's the thing? There we go. Now let's come over here. All right, this is going to fit right down in here. That worked out pretty darn good. The soil's going to hold that down. We're going to fill this with soil, and we're going to fill the whole pot with soil up to about 1 inch of the rim. That's going to maintain the soil for all the plants that we put in here. Now, a couple things I want to mention about this plastic. You don't have to use plastic. It's just what I have laying around. If you want to use wood, you could use wood. Wood's going to rot over time, but you'll get probably a couple years out of it if it's a decent piece of wood. If you have metal and you can cut metal, whatever you can find around the house, just use that. And basically, you might even be able to find a lot of plexiglass on Facebook. You might be able to cut that as well. But the final thing we have to do is drill our weep hole so that we don't drown our plants. We have changed the drill bit size to about the size of a pencil. I'm going to come it up about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and I'm going to drill my weep hole. Just like that. So now we have all this filled with soil. The bottom is all going to be filled with water. The plants can get down through the holes to get the water that they need. And as long as the plants can get to that water, it's a self-watering pot. Okay, want to go over a couple things with maintenance. When it's time to water this pot, you're just going to water from the top. You can pour a bucket full of water. That's normally what I do when I do my weekly feeding. I mix up a big bucket of fertilizer and I just pour it in the top. If I do need to water any other time, then I can just use the hose and I'm going to water the whole thing. And the way I know that my pot is full is when the water starts squirting out the weep hole. Now, sometimes what will happen is the weep hole will start to clog, in which case it will start to fill up with water and you'll see water all the way at the top of your pot. You don't want to let that happen, in which case you could take a nail, you could take a stick, you could take a pencil, whatever you have, and just stick it in there to clean out that hole and the water will start squirting out. So that's all there is to it. Typically during the summer, the hottest part of the summer, maybe 2 times a week. Again, if it's a really drought condition, you might have to water 3 times a week. But normally this time of year, I probably don't even have to water once a week. We're getting enough rain right now that it's going to take care of itself. Make sure that you have fertilizer in your soil to begin with so those plants start off really well. And I think you'll be ready to go. So if you like this video, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, share with friends. And if you have water saving techniques that you could share with me, please leave them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Get out in your garden and do some gardening. Take care. Bye-bye. And in case anybody's wondering, we are puppy sitting for a couple days. And this is Bailey. Can you say hi? Say hi. She's a good girl. She's keeping us on our toes today. Take care. Bye-bye.